All right, my name is Glenn, this is Mike, this is Savio, we're TILEUNIVERSE. What we created was the back end for an arbitrary number of video games playing in a potentially infinite universe together. This project was more ambitious than we realized, even after I just told you all of that. This is not an easy challenge. But basically we've got this platform for multiplayer games. It's a shared global state, so you can be playing your game, I can be playing my game. They're two totally different games, but we're in the same world together. They're shared assets, so I can be picking up the sword that you dropped, even though I'm a wizard and you're a special ops unit in New York City. You get to play together with your friends, so if you like playing racing games and I like playing city builder games, I can build a city and you can race in it. You get procedural and emergent behavior out of this, so you get to play fun things like Mario Portal type stuff if Mario picks up a portal gun. We did not implement this thing, but it's a potential option for within this system that you can compensate the creators of well-crafted and popular items that are in this system because of Bluezo's unique architecture. There's an example of what you can do. So we have an event/permissioning system. One of the things we talked a lot about was the potential for the volcano video game, where somebody says, I want to build a game that builds volcanoes all over and destroys all of your cities. Your game can choose to ignore that content if you want to, and you'll be like, that's a lovely volcano, but my cities are going to remain intact, thank you very much. From the decentralized standpoint, this gets really, really interesting because we're letting anybody who wants to write to a database that is absolutely enormous. We could have tiles that we only implemented everything in 2D. You could go 3D, you could go 4D if you really wanted to. And letting 100,000 players simultaneously write to that gets complicated. So we set up saying you can listen for specific events from specific games that you decide to partner with, or you can listen to the global state if you want to. Permissioning also is really important in terms of censorship. If I want to play a game that has content that you find objectionable, I don't have to worry that you're going to tell your government to block that content for my video game. It's on the server, tough. Oh, also, if I don't want my kid to see that content, I just don't let them play the game that displays that content. Again, with the permissioning. I'm a kid-friendly game, we're not displaying the content for adults. Here's another example of what you could do in our game, Mario riding a pony. Like I said, well, we're not limited to 2D. Your 3D games can exist on that 2D platform, just saying these are hills, these are mountains, these are forests, that's a horse, that's Mario, there's a bazooka. Using their unique scalability, we can create these galaxy-sized worlds that everybody can play in. Or if you want to, again, you can say, you know what, I don't want to play in that giant universe, I'd like to fork it though. And I'd like to play in our own one with just you and me in it, and we're not going to have the volcano thing. Again, that's Mike Bird, I'm Kirsten Savio. I can't pronounce your last name. Prsentation. And we should win. We use the scalability of the platform in a unique fashion. We use the platform for compensating creators of content. For competitive games, we use blockchain and swarm technologies to prevent cheating. This is especially important in turn-based games or esports. We have a real-world problem that I like playing racing games. My wife likes playing creative games. It's kind of hard for me to play Mario Kart with her when she wants to play Skyrim, but in this way we could. She might be kind of annoyed that my Mario Kart is playing on her game, and she might decide to turn me off, but it's optional. Also, we're really innovative. I don't know anybody else doing anything like this at all for some reason. I don't know why, my guess is money. That's it. That's not it. We actually have a demo. We did it. Like, this isn't just like a, we think we can make it work. This is, we can kind of make it work. So, actually, Mike, you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. So, didn't quite go as ambitious with the 3D 100,000 players, but Stratego is a game from my childhood. I loved it. It's a 2-player turn-based strategy game. And what you do is you get teams going, just go back and forth. And while I was building this, Savio was building Game of Life. And Game of Life is a game that works off of random rules that, or not random rules, random squares based on certain rules interacting with each other. And we decided to mimic the randomness of nature. And when you have these two separate things interacting, when you do grant permissions, you can actually have it where the weather will hopefully interact with the Stratego game.
Well, that's the idea anyway.
is it would replicate the clouds on this. So oh, didn't quite do it.
I promise this worked like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the demos. You guys might want to hold on to the mics. You guys both have mics down. So, do the judges have any questions? You have to press the button. Now try.
The demo actually led right from this question I was going to ask you. What about latency?
Yeah, so we don't advise trying to run a first-person shooter off of this, but if you were doing a first-person shooter, you could certainly say, we've got a first-person shooter, we're keeping that player data and that vector information either in memory or on really low latency servers that are not persistent, and when you are hit, and when you're dead, we'll record your position and who killed you to the database, but at present, we don't think that we've got fast enough latency here for making DB calls to and from the database for determining who got shot.
Okay.
It's on.
So if multiple people are playing each game, how do you? Does the permission system allow you to filter out misbehaving players in your game? You know, you can filter out entire games that you don't want to interact with, but
If you wanted to filter out a single misbehaving
like,
player from a
because
huge game,
Yeah.
we would probably ask you as a front-end developer, as the client game, to filter
Okay.
those out. But if we as a team said, you guys are jerks, we could immediately instantiate for free, essentially, off of the chain, our own galaxy, and we just don't play with you.
And also, we can limit the APIs that have the ability to interact. So say you want to do, global like world events such as earthquakes or whatnot, you can allow that, but you can't allow for other people to interact physically. So the permissions go more granular than that, or actually be like individual aspects of each.
so everyone sort of can play their own game.
Yeah, you can decide to what degree.
Right. That you cooperate with other people.
Yep, exactly.
And this is an opportunity also. This become an opportunity also to make business, because for example, you can offer some service for other games and offer an API, and the other game can just watch this API and use this service in any manner. For example, the weather can be some service for a game.
Yeah. Or you can offer a cool mix that nobody's ever thought of before. And
So I have two questions. I believe that this worked actually, because
Sorry. Aaron, would you guys mind standing in the light so we can see it? Yeah. Here you go.
so when it did work. So was it using Uzel's database actually in the back end? That's part one of my question. And part two of my question is going back to your initial kind of scenario where I guess Link drops his sword and Mario finds it and walks off with it in Mario 64. How do you kind of imagine that happening? Like if I'm playing the Link game and then I drop my sword and Mario walks away with it, am I going to see Mario or am I going to just see the sword kind of just float in the air and disappear? Like how do you kind of connect these two worlds where there's certain things that are in common, overlapping, but then Mario's not really in the Zelda game? So how do you see that?
Yeah, the games actually they happen under namespaces, the way we planned here. So depending on, for example, if you're interacting with Zelda, you're already seeing everything that's happening in Zelda. So you will see, like if you're Link actually and you're interacting with Mario, like if you drop your sword, Mario will come, get the sword, walks away. You can see Mario because you're already watching that game later.
Yeah, we let anybody read if you feel like it, but we don't let you write unless you decide to give permission to somebody else to write, to your namespace specifically.
How are the publishing and subscribing events handled? It sounds like you guys have an event system.
So we have an array, I'm not sure how technically line this together, but the idea is, and we didn't fully implement this, but it was to have an array of events that each individual game subscribes to. And when that game has consumed an event, that event affects a given tile that you're looking at. And then once everybody's consumed that event, it's over and done with. And so we keep that event list nice and small. And then when you boot up your game and you're first checking game state, you don't care what that series of 400,000 events was in the past on that tile, you just care about its current state. So we store current state along with the unconsumed events.
So it's a polling model then, or?
At present, it's implemented as a polling mechanism. We could do it with WebSockets where it's pushed, we just didn't.
Any other questions? We're good. Round of applause.